There comes a moment in every person's life when the room gets quiet, not because the world stopped talking, because the people you thought would walk beside you didn't. And that's the moment most people break. But tonight, I want to talk about the moment that creates legends. The moment you stop looking left, stop looking right, and realize the road ahead belongs to you alone. Listen carefully, because what I'm about to tell you will make some people uncomfortable. You've been taught your entire life that success is a team sport, that you need approval, you need support, you need validation, you need a crowd, you need everyone to believe in you before you believe in yourself. But let me ask you something. Where were they when you were fighting battles nobody knew about? Where were they when anxiety kept you awake at 2 a.m.? Where were they when you stared at the ceiling wondering if your dreams were too big for your circumstances? Where were they when you failed? When you got rejected? When life hit you in the mouth and left you bleeding confidence? Most people disappear when the storm arrives. Everybody loves the parade. Very few people survive the war. And that's why the ability to walk alone is one of the most dangerous powers a human being can possess. Because the person who can stand alone can never be controlled. The world fears independent minds. The world fears people who don't need applause. The world fears people who don't require permission. Because once a person becomes comfortable walking alone, they become unstoppable. Think about it. The average person spends their entire life trying not to be alone. They stay in toxic relationships because solitude scares them. They stay in jobs they hate because uncertainty scares them. They stay around people who secretly drain their energy because isolation scares them. Fear has built more prisons than iron bars ever could. And the saddest part, most of those prisons don't have locks. The door is open. But people refuse to leave because they are addicted to company. Even bad company. Even fake company. Even people who clap for them in public and doubt them in private. But you weren't born to spend your life begging for seats at tables where your value is questioned. You weren't born to shrink your ambitions so insecure people can feel comfortable. You weren't born to ask permission to become who you were created to be. You were born to build, to rise, to lead, and leadership begins with loneliness. Nobody talks about that part. Everyone wants the crown. Nobody wants the isolation that comes before it. Everybody wants greatness. Very few people want the silence that greatness requires, because silence is uncomfortable. Silence forces you to meet yourself. No distractions, no excuses, no audience, just you. And that's where most people run. Because when the noise disappears, the truth gets loud. The truth about your habits, the truth about your discipline, the truth about your fears, the truth about your potential. Walking alone isn't punishment. Walking alone is revelation. It's where masks fall off. It's where excuses die. It's where strength is forged. Look at every great comeback story, every empire, every champion, every innovator. There was a season nobody applauded, a season nobody noticed, a season of isolation, a season where they walked alone, not because they wanted to, because they had to, because growth demands separation. Read that again in your mind. Growth demands separation. You cannot become extraordinary while remaining attached to everything ordinary. At some point, you must leave behind the habits, environments, conversations, and expectations that no longer serve your future. And that process hurts. Of course it hurts. Transformation always does. The caterpillar probably thinks the cocoon is the end. It has no idea it's becoming something capable of flight. And maybe that's where you are right now. Maybe you're in the cocoon. Maybe you're in the season nobody understands. Maybe your phone isn't ringing. Maybe people are doubting you. Maybe support has disappeared. Maybe you're carrying responsibilities nobody sees. Maybe you're fighting battles nobody understands. Good, because pressure reveals character, and solitude reveals power. There is a version of you waiting on the other side of this season. Stronger, sharper, more disciplined, more focused, more dangerous. But that version cannot emerge until the weaker version stops negotiating with comfort. You see, comfort is a beautiful liar. Comfort tells you to wait. Comfort tells you tomorrow. Comfort tells you someday. Comfort whispers while your dreams slowly suffocate. And years later, people wake up wondering where the time went. The answer is simple. Comfort stole it. One day at a time. One excuse at a time. One delay at a time. Meanwhile, the person willing to walk alone kept moving, kept building, kept learning, kept growing, kept showing up when nobody was watching. That's the difference. Champions don't work for applause. They work because excellence became their identity. And identity is stronger than motivation. Motivation comes and goes. Identity stays. When you become the kind of person who does the work regardless of feelings, your life changes forever. Because now you're no longer dependent on emotional weather. Rain or sunshine, praise or criticism, support or silence, you move anyway. That's power. Real power. Not the power of influence. Not the power of followers. The power of self-mastery. The power to command yourself. The power to keep promises made in private. The power to continue when nobody is cheering. And let me tell you something most people will never understand. The people who laugh at your solitude today will eventually admire the results it creates tomorrow. Because success has a strange way of making people forget how much they doubted you. One day they'll see the confidence, the discipline, the achievements, the transformation, and they'll call you lucky. But you will know the truth. It wasn't luck. It was lonely mornings, lonely nights, lonely decisions, lonely sacrifices. It was choosing growth over comfort when nobody was looking. And that's why you must stop fearing solitude. Embrace it, use it, leverage it. Because the greatest conversations you'll ever have happen inside your own mind. The greatest breakthroughs often happen in silence. The greatest transformations happen when external noise finally loses its influence over your internal voice. And when that happens, everything changes. Because now you're no longer chasing validation. You're chasing purpose. You're no longer asking for permission. You're taking responsibility. You're no longer waiting to be chosen. You're choosing yourself. And the moment you choose yourself, the world has no choice but to respond. So if you're walking alone right now, good. If the road feels empty, good. If nobody understands your vision, good. Keep moving, keep building, keep believing. Because one day the road that feels lonely today will become the road that changed your life forever. And when that day comes, you'll realize something extraordinary. You were never truly alone. You were simply being prepared. Prepared for responsibility. Prepared for leadership. Prepared for greatness. Prepared for the life you kept praying for. The road is hard. The nights are long. The doubts are real. But so is the person you're becoming. And that person, that future version of you, is worth every lonely step. So walk. Walk through the fear. Walk through the uncertainty. Walk through the silence. Walk through the doubt. Walk through the pain. Walk through the darkness. Because the strongest people in history were not created when life was easy. They were created when quitting looked reasonable, and they refused. Tonight, make a decision, not next week, not next month tonight. Stop waiting for the crowd. Stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for support. Stop waiting for certain. Move while you're scared. Move while you're doubted. Move while you're alone. Because one focused individual with a clear mission is more powerful than 1,000 distracted people moving in circles. And years from now, when you look back at this chapter of your life, you won't remember the loneliness. You won't remember the uncertainty. You won't remember the people who left. You'll remember the moment you discovered your strength, the moment you stopped chasing approval, the moment you stopped shrinking, the moment you stopped waiting, The moment you became the author of your own story. So stand up, lift your head, straighten your shoulders, look fear directly in the eyes, and remind yourself who you are, not who they said you were, not who circumstances tried to make you, who you choose to become. Because your future is not waiting for a crowd. Your future is waiting for courage. And courage begins with one step, one decision, one promise, commitment, one person. You. Walk alone if you must. Fight alone if you must. Build alone if you must. Dream alone if you must. Because the people who change the world are rarely the people who followed the crowd. They are the people who had the courage to keep walking when the crowd disappeared. And if nobody believes in your vision yet, believe anyway. If nobody sees your potential yet, see it anyway. If nobody understands your mission yet, pursue it anyway. Because history does not remember the people who waited. History remembers the people who moved. So move. Move with purpose. Move with conviction. Move with fire. Move with faith. Move with relentless determination. And when the world finally asks how you did it, tell them the truth. You learned the power of walking alone. And now we're here. The moment most people never reach. The moment where excuses have nowhere left to hide. The moment where the truth stands in front of you like a mirror. Look at your life. Really look at it. Look at the years that slipped away while you waited for the perfect time. Look at the opportunities you watched pass by because fear sounded reasonable. Look at the dreams you postponed, the goals you delayed, the promises you broke to yourself. Not because you couldn't do it, because you didn't fully decide. That's the painful truth. Most people don't lose because they're weak. They lose because they're undecided. They spend years standing at the edge of greatness while life keeps moving without them. And one day they wake up shocked by the reflection staring back at them. Older, tired, full of potential, but haunted by possibility. Haunted by the question that destroys more souls than failure ever could. What if I had started? What if I had believed? What if I had taken the risk? What if I had trusted myself? What if I had stopped listening to people who were never brave enough to chase their own dreams? Listen to me carefully. You still have time, but don't confuse having time with having forever. Because forever is the greatest illusion ever sold to humanity. One day becomes 1 week. 1 week becomes 1 year. 1 year becomes a decade. And suddenly you're standing in the ruins of your own excuses. No, not this time. Not after tonight. Because something is happening right now. You can feel it. The old version of you is getting uncomfortable. The version addicted to delay. The version addicted to average. The version that kept negotiating with fear. It's dying. And it should. Because your future is demanding more from you. Your future is tired of waiting. Your future is calling your name. The question is, will you answer? Because nobody is coming. No rescue is coming. No miracle is coming. No perfect conditions are coming. You are the rescue. You are the miracle. You are the opportunity you've been waiting for. Read that again in your soul. You are the opportunity. Not next month, not next year. Right now. This moment, this breath, this decision. Everything changes when a person finally stops wishing and starts becoming. And that's why this is your battlefield. Not tomorrow. Tonight. Not against other people. Against your limitations. Against your fear. Against your doubt. Against every excuse that has stolen years from your life. This is the fight. This is the war. This is the line in the sand. Because the person you become over the next few years will be determined by what you decide after this moment ends. Not what you feel. Not what you post. Not what you promise. What you do. The world doesn't reward intentions. The world rewards execution. And deep down, you know exactly what you need to do. You always have. You don't need another sign. You don't need another guarantee. You don't need another motivational video. You need movement. Massive movement. Relentless movement. Unapologetic movement. The clock is moving. The years are moving. Life is moving. The only question is, are you moving? Because every second you hesitate, someone else is building, someone else is learning, someone else is becoming, someone else is creating the future you keep talking about. Enough. Enough waiting, enough doubting, enough shrinking, enough playing small to make other people comfortable. You weren't born for comfort. You were born for impact. You were born to become someone your younger self would stare at in disbelief. Someone disciplined. Someone fearless. Someone impossible to ignore. And here's what most people will never understand. Your greatest enemy was never failure. It was your acceptance of less than you were capable of becoming. That ends tonight, right here, right now. Because there is a fire inside you that circumstances couldn't kill. A vision inside you that criticism couldn't destroy. A purpose inside you that rejection couldn't erase. You survived every bad day, every setback, every betrayal, every disappointment, every moment you thought would break you. Yet here you are, still standing, still breathing, still fighting. And that means your story isn't over. It means the next chapter hasn't been written yet. It means your greatest victory may still be ahead of you. Now listen, because this next minute matters. One day, years from now, you'll remember this version of yourself. You'll remember who you were before you decided, before you committed, before you transformed, and you'll realize something powerful. The life you wanted was never hiding from you. It was waiting for you to become the person capable of carrying it. That's why the struggle was necessary. That's why the pain was necessary. That's why the setbacks were necessary. Because weak foundations cannot hold extraordinary lives. The pressure wasn't destroying you. It was building you. And now the future is watching. The person you could become is watching. The life you deserve is watching. The question is no longer whether you're capable. The question is whether you're willing. Willing to sacrifice. Willing to grow. Willing to endure. Willing to become. Because greatness is not inherited. Greatness is chosen. Again and again and again. Every single day. So when this speech ends, don't clap. Don't celebrate. Don't feel inspired for 10 minutes and return to old habits. Decide. Decide so completely that your actions become unavoidable. Decide so completely that doubt loses its voice. Decide so completely that your future has no choice but to change. Because history is filled with people who had talent. But history belongs to people who made a decision. And now, the final truth. The truth most people spend their entire lives running from. You are one decision away from meeting a completely different version of yourself. One decision. One commitment. One moment of courage. One refusal to quit. One refusal to settle. One refusal to betray your own potential. That's all. And if that's true, then think about this. If one decision can change everything, what version of you is waiting on the other side of tonight? Think about it. Don't answer it. Carry it with you. Let it follow you home. Let it sit beside you in silence. Let it challenge you tomorrow morning when the alarm rings. Because today's transformation is not the destination. It's the beginning. The beginning of a different standard, a different mindset, a different identity, a different life. And years from now, when people ask where it all started, you won't tell them it started with success. You'll tell them it started with a decision made in a moment when nobody could make it for you, a decision that changed everything. So stand tall, face the future, and remember this: the crowd waits for permission. The average waits for motivation. The weak wait for certainty. But legends move before they're ready. And here's the thought I want to leave echoing in your mind long after this speech is over. If the person you're capable of becoming met you tonight, would they be proud of your excuses or disappointed by your hesitation? Think carefully, because tomorrow that person becomes closer or farther away based on what you do next. Now go. The future isn't waiting for you. It's watching you.